If you are the kind of person who believes that a man's worth is measured by his heart and not his clothes, subscribe right now. You belong with us. Every morning at exactly 5 o'clock, an old man named Arthur walked into the city's largest construction yard. His boots were held together by gray duct tape, and his faded blue overalls were covered in patches. The younger workers, driving their shiny new trucks and wearing spotless gear, laughed whenever he walked past. They called him the relic and the shadow. They wondered why the company kept a 70-year-old man around just to sweep the floors and sort rusty bolts. The foreman, a ruthless man named Marcus, took every opportunity to humiliate him. Marcus would intentionally knock over bins of nails just to watch Arthur bend down and pick them up. "Hurry up, old man," Marcus would sneer, spinning his expensive car keys on his finger. "Some of us actually build things that matter. You're just taking up space." Arthur never argued. He never frowned. He would simply look up with calm, deep eyes, nod gently, and say, "Every piece matters, sir. Even the ones you think are broken." But there was something Marcus and the others didn't know. Every single evening, after the gates were locked and the heavy machinery fell silent, Arthur didn't go home to sleep. Instead, he walked down into the abandoned, subterranean basement beneath the main warehouse, a place the company had forgotten decades ago. For 3 years, Arthur had been carrying discarded materials down into the dark. Bent iron rods, cracked marble slabs, thrown away copper pipes, and rejected timber. To Marcus, it was trash. To Arthur, it was raw potential. In the flickering light of a single hanging bulb, the old man worked late into the night, his hands blistered and bleeding, cutting, welding, and polishing. He was building something massive in the shadows, hidden away from a world that had discarded him. Meanwhile, the company began its biggest project yet, a luxury high-rise penthouse for the city's most elite clients. Marcus was in charge, and he was cutting corners to pocket the extra budget. He used cheaper concrete blends and rushed the foundation work, mocking Arthur's warnings about structural integrity. "You sweep floors, Arthur. Leave the engineering to the professionals," Marcus laughed. Months passed, and the penthouse was finally complete. A massive grand opening gala was scheduled, and the wealthiest investors in the state arrived in their tailored suits and diamond jewelry. Marcus stood at the center of the room, sipping champagne, soaking in the praise. Arthur was told to stay in the basement out of sight so he wouldn't ruin the aesthetic of the wealthy guests. Then, at midnight, the music stopped. A deep, violent shudder vibrated through the floorboards. The crystal chandeliers overhead began to sway, their glass droplets clinking in an ominous rhythm. Suddenly, a sound like a gunshot echoed through the walls. A massive crack split open across the center of the marble floor. Panic erupted. Guests screamed, dropping their glasses, rushing toward the main elevators, but the power instantly cut out, plunging the entire skyscraper into darkness. The automated security doors slammed shut, locking everyone inside the crumbling penthouse. Marcus panicked, his arrogance instantly evaporating into terrified sweat. The foundation was failing, just as Arthur had warned. The building was shifting, trapping the city's wealthiest citizens in a modern cage. If you are holding your breath to see if they survive, hit that like button right now because the real story begins here. Through the cloud of dust and the screams of terror, a heavy emergency door at the back of the room was forced open. Through the smoke emerged a figure holding a heavy iron crowbar. It was Arthur. While everyone else was running up, he had run down to the heart of the danger. "Follow me." Arthur's voice rang out, no longer sounding like a frail old man, but a captain guiding a ship through a storm. He led the terrified crowd down the dark, narrow emergency stairwell, past the cracking concrete walls, deeper and deeper into the bowels of the building. Marcus followed closely behind, trembling and crying, clutching his expensive suit jacket. Arthur brought them all the way down to the forgotten subterranean basement. When the heavy iron doors opened, the guests gasped, forgetting the terror of the collapsing building for a brief moment. Before them stood a breathtaking, cathedral-like sanctuary. Arthur had used the discarded steel to build massive, beautifully arched structural supports that anchored the very bedrock of the facility. The walls were lined with stunning mosaics made from the cracked marble pieces Marcus had thrown away. In the center was a beautifully crafted sanctuary with polished timber benches and glowing copper lamps. But it wasn't just beautiful, it was a fortress. While the main building above them groaned and shifted, this underground sanctuary didn't move a single millimeter. Arthur had reinforced the weakest point of the entire skyscraper's foundation with his own hands, using the very materials the company had rejected. He had built a literal haven of safety that was now holding up the weight of the entire tower. They sat in safety for hours, protected by the old man's secret masterpiece, until the emergency rescue teams finally cut through from the outside. As the investors and guests were rolled out on stretchers, safe and unharmed, they looked at Arthur with tears of gratitude. The owners of the company realized that the man they paid minimum wage to sweep floors had just saved their lives and their entire legacy. Marcus stood in the ruins of his ruined project, looking at the magnificent steel arches Arthur had built. He realized that the man he had spent years humiliating was a master craftsman whose skill far exceeded his own. He fell to his knees, utterly broken by his own arrogance. Arthur walked out into the morning sun, his taped boots tracking dust onto the pavement. He didn't ask for a reward, and he didn't boast. He simply looked up at the sky, knowing he had done his duty. If this story touched your soul, comment the word proud below to show you stand for integrity, and subscribe to our channel if you believe that a person's true value is defined by their inner strength. Always remember, your life reflects your standards.